Welcome back, everybody, to Automate with Frends. I'm your host, Tiki. And in this episode, we're going to be talking about integration platforms as a service and also GenAI. Our next guest is the CTO of Frends Technology, Asmo Urpilainen. Welcome back to another episode of Automate with Frends. I'm your host, Tiki, and today we are here with the CTO of Frends Technology, Asmo Urpilainen. Asmo, thank you for being on the show with us.
No, thank you for having me, Tiki. It's great to be here.
Cool. I have a question for you. For the benefit of our viewers out there, could you tell us what Frends does? Because my mom keeps, is it a dating app? No, it's not a dating app, Mom. What is Frends?
Well, just really well, I would say that's an extremely difficult question to answer in an easy and succinct way. But to clarify and I think to simplify this as much as I possibly can, Frends is basically an IT solution and an application that most organizations or organizations of any size or from any vertical can use to connect basically data and systems that they are using to support their existing business processes. So that's the kind of like as clear of or as easy of an answer as possible. But a good thing or a good way to think about it also, it could be that Frends is kind of like the internal post service at any given organization. So you need to have ways of transporting information between different functions and parts of any given organization, because of course the flow of information is what makes basically businesses run as smooth and efficient as possible, and Frends kind of fulfills that role. So it's delivering kind of like mail between those different parts and different functions of the organization. But that's of course also a gross oversimplification. So pick your poison, which way you want to go down.
Indeed. Yes, that is very true, because I've been here with the team for a bit now, and there's really honestly nothing it can't do. So I'll go in more detail in one of the shows about that. But just also, again, for the benefit for the folks who don't know you, could you tell us a little bit about yourself? I mean, how you got started?
Yeah.
What you do here?
Yeah, sure. So I've been with the company from basically 2010. And originally, I think I joined the company as an integration developer. And of course, we used Frends also back in those days, but we also had some other technologies in the bag. Basically, we used to implement these integration solutions to our customers. And over the years, I've done like a variety of jobs within the company. So I've been a project manager, I've done some service management, some architecture, tried my hand in sales a bit along the way as well. But basically in 2015 and 2016, that's when we decided to basically rewrite Frends in its entirety. So we basically renewed the entire code base, meaning that then we switched from this sort of an older approach of delivering the software on a CD like you used to do back in the days. We still have a bunch of the old Frends installation CDs at the office there, but that's when we basically transitioned the entire product from the CD into a cloud native solution. So jumped straight ahead into the kind of SaaS or PaaS world. And basically, ever since then, I've been leading the product development unit here, meaning that I've been responsible for both executing the roadmap and, of course, kind of setting the roadmap for the product, but also overseeing the actual development of the platform and of course the delivery of that to our clients. And now that I think about it, that's almost 8 years ago already. So how time flies when you're having fun.
I'm so glad you mentioned the roadmap, because you would probably be the best person to ask this question. You've seen what our clients have been asking throughout, this whole time that you've been here. Have you seen anything, any trends or things that clients are increasingly asking for, especially, nowadays? Are there any like trends, like I said?
I think that's a good question, but one way I'd like to think about that also is that as the supplier or the developer of the platform, it kind of sometimes feels that it's kind of up to us also to educate our clients a little bit. But I think that overall, like some trends we've been seeing for many years now is of course transitioning away from file-based systems and solutions to more real-time and event-based solutions. And that's kind of like, I think, the overarching bigger theme that has been going on for at least 10 years now. And basically, if we take a look at a typical solution, let's say from 15 years ago, or like the beginning of 2000 and 2010, you worked with files, you did transformations, and basically file comes in, something happens, file comes out, and that was the pattern that most integrations took during those times. But nowadays, of course, most applications and systems have modern APIs, and we are moving more and more towards this world where we're directly communicating with the systems, and there's actually no files involved. So it's more about being able to react to changes within clients, basically systems and data, and in real time as quickly as possible execute whatever the functionality might be. So I'd say that transition away from the file-based world to some more modern alternatives has been the biggest, I think, trend that has been going on in the past. But now, of course, I think, well, everyone is talking about it, and I don't think you can't really avoid it. I think AI is now the next bigger thing that's really pushing through. And I could maybe mention like a funny story, or like maybe like a note from that regard, is that of course there's been like a lot of other types of emerging technologies throughout the way. I remember in 2018, 19, 20, like when it was all about blockchain, and like everyone had like so big ideas and dreams about how we build distributed systems and distributed, let's say, blockchain solutions that kind of, let's say, I don't know, create some sort of a unique advantage in the market, and kind of the hype was tremendous during that time. But unfortunately, as probably most of us know now, like blockchain and those technologies really never kind of actually took off. And especially from an integration perspective, I don't think we actually ever delivered any real blockchain solutions, because customers simply weren't probably ready for it, or the technology wasn't there. But I think, especially now with the Gen AI stuff, this feels like it's something a little bit different compared to the other hype cycles that I think we've gone through.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the AI or Gen AI, because that is actually a question that keeps popping up. And that is, what kind of functionality that AIs can bring, to our business or businesses in general. But specifically for friends, what would you say Gen AI would offer for us, or
Uh,
from us to our clients?
That's a really interesting question, and I think I'd like to answer this in two parts,
Okay.
to make it a bit clearer. So a good thing, I don't know if you've read, well, there was a blog post by Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, a few weeks back, where he basically outlined like the 5 stages of AI, according to him, where the first stage is basically chatbots. So it's like the typical ChatGPT experience you have. You have a pre-trained model, which basically has consumed like all of the information or kind of data available on the internet, and is able to answer questions and basically communicate with you quite naturally. Then the second stage of that, which Altman outlines, is a reasoner model. So what the original like Gen AI solutions, for example, were not that great at were, for example, maths, or being able to kind of work with complicated logic and answer these like quite fairly simple questions, because they lacked like the reasoning capability. They really didn't understand what they were like spewing out. But now, actually, I think we are there. So, for example, the newer models that have come out in the last couple of weeks are able and capable of doing actually very complicated maths as well, and provide these sort of answers to logical puzzles, and basically have the reasoning behind there. But what's really interesting now is, I think, what Sam Altman says is about to happen next is then the autonomous agent. So that's, I think, where we really kind of like will see a bigger change in the overall, I guess, the economy and especially the IT landscape in general. because what the autonomous, let's say, agent is supposed to be able to do is basically act as a human, to be basically a part of any existing process or business process, and even automate that from an end-to-end perspective. So the generative AI will be kind of transition from something where you ask questions to something that actually is able to take a task and execute that task for you, thus automating the use case. So now, bearing this in mind, I think the way that we approach AI here at Frends is again from these kind of like different angles. So the reasoner and the chatbot, those are tools that we can give to our users to make their life easier. So they need to perform certain types of development, operational functionality, I don't know, rerunning failed integration, stuff like that. We can use those first two categories to make their journey and basically experience much simpler, and basically provide the AI's knowledge base and understanding for the user, so that then they can achieve what they're doing. But then the important or interesting part is then what comes after, which is then actually bringing these autonomous AI agents to our clients, to our organizations, where you could have, let's say, an agent that's, I don't know, let's say responsible for sales process as an example. So what the agent should be capable of then doing is actually sending out emails to, for example, prospects, talking naturally with those prospects, filling in all the needed information in your CRM system. If the lead becomes kind of like hot or becomes kind of more realized, then of course it would know to, let's say, call Tiki, for example, that, hey, Tiki, I have now gathered all of these sales cases for you. Please come in and close them, as a practical example. But basically being able to bring these different types of AI agents into the client's landscape, which can actually then perform business processes from an end-to-end perspective. And I think that's when you get to that point, that's where you can kind of get that productivity leap where you're suddenly 100 times more efficient than you were previously. And that's where the disruption, in my opinion, will happen.
Yeah, and that's where the single person millionaire would be born.
Yeah, pretty much. That's also, of course, like I'm talking from like a B2B like enterprise perspective, but of course, for like individuals and consumers, I think the same thing will happen.
Yeah, I agree. I'm actually so glad you brought up that example just now, because we have actually had a question from a previous guest on the show,
Yes.
and that is, how have you used Gen AI specifically? I mean, what are the success stories that you have using Gen AI in your organization?
Oh, I think there are many different angles. I think, of course, I'm of course, as the CTO, I'm like a little bit partial to other types of AI benefits than others. But of course, I think we are using basically GitHub Copilot, the leading AI or basically Gen AI solution to basically assist developers. And I think we have seen pretty big productivity leaps or basically increases after taking GitHub Copilot into use. It's not perfect. You still need to kind of really understand what you're doing there. It will not be able to replace your developers. Let's say put it like that. But it can save you a lot of time in, let's say, Googling, searching for a solution, just writing out like boring code, and maybe it takes you on a little bit of like the next level in terms of abstraction. So you think more about the architecture and the fine tuning rather than kind of like just clicking and writing many different lines of code. So I think the like pure productivity boost from that perspective has been pretty tremendous. Of course, we are then using AI in pretty much, I'd say, all facets of the organization. So marketing is using it for various types of analytical uses. I think we're generating some content. We have actually created this sort of internal like bots or assistants, which we've trained on some of our sales material that can answer questions for anyone within the organization. I know we've generated some images in certain use cases. But I think it's still at the point that we are kind of finding our way, in a sense that we have like tried it in many different places with good experiences, but it's not yet in a kind of, let's say, like a fully standardized everyday use for everyone within the organization.
Cool. Which basically brings us to our next question.
Mm.
What would you like? I'm sure you have had questions yourself. What is a question that you might have for our next guest that, something that's burning on your mind that perhaps they could answer for you?
I think what I'd maybe like to ask is how aware are you of the data that you are storing and using within your organization? And I mean that from a data value perspective. Do you realize and understand how valuable that is, and are you taking care of that in a good and nice way?
Okay. Um, uh, is this in regards to like GDPR issues or perhaps?
I think mostly about, for example, if we think about what I just mentioned about, let's say, autonomous AI agents or other types of automation integration solutions in general. I think people are underestimating the importance of having good and let's say correct data available and free to use within the organization. And I think that that's something that many people recognize that something should be done about this, and it's like it would be nice to have data, but it's still something that's not that often really something that we really pay any attention to. It's just like the data is there somewhere, but we don't really care about this. It would be interesting to hear the thoughts of the next guest, even though I don't know who the next guest is.
We'll find out.
But let's say it would be interesting to hear his and her thoughts about how they kind of view the value of the data that they have currently.
Okay. I have a question about, some of the challenges that you've seen with the iPaaS industry. Um, iPaaS meaning integration platform as a service. What challenges have you seen happening, and how would you say we would overcome those challenges?
Okay, so if we think about the iPaaS industry in general, I think one of the biggest challenges has been the pace at which the industry is evolving, and that's of course true for the entire IT industry. But I think it reflects on the iPaaS and especially like the integration subsegment quite heavily. So if you have, let's say, an ERP system, of course, like you get new innovations and let's say you get GenAI in there and all of that good stuff, but still it's like quite slow and methodical and like it doesn't really affect, let's say, their clients or ERP clients that much. But if we think about iPaaS, whenever the customer is now doing something new, they have a good or a good idea to how to improve their business, or they want to do this, that, and the next best mobile thing, or I don't know, physical store located in some sort of a box along the street, or robots delivering food for you, like we see with the Alepa robot here in Finland. All of those solutions need to be integrated with the existing landscape of the customer has. So that's, I'd say, the number one challenge is that new things are always the first thing that kind of comes to the iPaaS or the integration segment, because then they get the solution, they come up with the idea, and then it needs to be integrated. So you have to be on the really cutting edge of being compatible with the, let's say, the latest and the greatest, whilst at the same time you can't ignore the existing systems and the existing solutions that you have there. So it's this mix of new and old, and the pace at which new things keep on being added to the stack, as I'd maybe like to call it, which is like the biggest, I would say, challenge from an iPaaS perspective is how to stay within that curve and be competitive and useful from that regard. But yeah, I think that's a pretty well-rounded answer from like the iPaaS challenges in general.
Oh yeah, I hear this a lot. It's like, some of our clients have legacy systems, but they want some new features implemented on it. So completely understand. So, if you had to give advice to companies that were considering using, you know, iPaaS systems, what would you say to them?
Oh, just get started, basically. I think the way to look at this is that even if you are aware of it or not, any company, any organization will have integrations and automations within the company, because otherwise the company would not just be able to function, or you would need an army of people basically manually transferring data between multiple different places. So you are delivering, let's say, that function, that business function of integrating and automating different processes, regardless of if you're using an iPaaS or another system for it. And if that's the case, I think we just need to recognize that, hey, if we are already doing this, and it is it's a business critical, basically a function for the company, why not do it the best way, in a sense? So why not use the best tools possible to deliver that functionality? Why not use the most productive tools available to use that, deliver that functionality? And of course, iPaaS, such as Frends in general, are the best tools to basically providing these sorts of value for the client of being able to integrate those different disparate systems, as well as then automate the business processes and flow of data between those. So I would flip the question this way: that you are doing it, and even if you think you aren't, start digging. Someone at somewhere will be able to then tell you that, okay, hey, we are actually doing this, like data transfer here or here and here, and then suddenly you realize that there's an entire landscape that exists there, even with or without your knowledge, and there are huge there can be huge business benefits in doing it in this sort of a more well-governed or structured approach like an iPaaS provides.
Yeah, and actually, the behind basically what I usually tell people is, if you're doing something manually, anything like filling in forms or sorting things, those are things that you could probably use an iPaaS
Oh,
for.
yeah, definitely.
But on that note,
Mm.
if someone was in your position, the role of a CTO,
Yes.
would you have any advice for them?
I think my advice would basically, I think, still revolve around AI a bit. I know it's a bit of a boring topic since everyone is talking about it, but what I'd say or advise a CTO to do is basically be as brave as possible, and basically look at that from the perspective of not trying to reinvent the wheel in a sense. And what I mean by that is that you can actually get tremendous business benefits from using AI in very simple actual use cases, and you don't have to invest hundreds of thousands of dollars into projects to get those kind of up and running and started, because of the work that the multi-billion OpenAIs, Googles, Amazons, Facebooks have done for us, and they've been kind enough to kind of share their technology with us. Meaning that it's actually very, very straightforward and easy to kind of basically join their existing ecosystem, tap into the business benefits, and just try experimenting. Just try and see where you end up. Since the change is coming, whether you like it or not, it's probably better to be on the up down than on the down low when it comes to AI.
Fair enough. Yeah, especially so treat your AIs with respect. They might become self-aware. Excellent. Well, I guess that's all the time we have for this episode. But thank you so much for being on the show with us. We hope to see
Thank
you
you,
again.
Tiki.
And thank you very much, folks, for being with us on this episode. And we'll see you when we see you. Take care, y'all.